Network, live from the University of West Georgia in Carrollton, now in Odyssey Station.
Welcome to the Playbook, your ultimate game plan for college sports. 5 guys who live and breathe the game are here to break down the biggest plays, the hottest takes, and the boldest predictions, bringing you segments like The Kickoff.
Jalen Walker, I think, in my personal opinion, could wind up being the very best.
And introducing 3 new segments like the Peach Slate, talking all things Georgia.
Walk the Line, breaking down the crucial overs and unders of the weekend.
And Playbook Picks, where we make our predictions for this weekend's games.
And to end it all off, a signature segment of Who's That Campus Legend. The first hint is this player went to UNC.
It's obviously Drake May.
Dude, it's Michael Jordan.
This is The Playbook on Wolf Sports Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome back to The Playbook, and I'm your host, JT Groves, and I'm surrounded by not my usual cast. Of course, we still have Brandon Dyer over here to my right, but now Jackson Bowles, you're sitting over here to my left. Doesn't Aiden usually sit there?
Normally.
That's so weird. And, of course, we have Michael Miller.
I am not Aiden Navy.
That is not Aiden Navy. I don't know where Aiden Navy is. Last thing I heard is he was subjecting somebody to a death sentence, which is, I don't know what it was for. I heard it was jaywalking, but serious stuff that hope Aiden gets back here soon. But we are going to go ahead and kick off this show.
All right, everybody in here, are you ready for the kickoff? I said, are you ready for the kickoff?
You heard it, and there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on, from Billy Napier getting fired to Miami falling, and we have a really weird top 10. But we're going to kick it off with the Billy Napier firing. Michael, I'm going to throw this one to you. What do you think of this move?
Yeah, let's start with Billy. So this should have happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, it probably should have happened last year. Florida had a really hot end of the year, finished off 7-6, won their bowl game, and DJ Lagway played really well at the end of the year. But his stat line was still pretty bad, though. He had 11 touchdowns and 9 picks and only a 6-game stretch. So it was kind of shaky there still, but he did play very well at the end of the year. This year he has not played well at all, really. What's interesting to me, though, is that Billy Napier lost his job because of play calling, in my opinion. He's recruited pretty well, honestly. I had the number 8 class in the country last year, but they're not winning games. And I think the biggest part of that is because of the play calling. Florida has a very good run game, but for whatever reason, they just did not want to use it this year, leaned a lot on Lagway. When they beat Texas, they ran the ball really well. They committed to it. But then they had the rough game. Mississippi State's an okay team, but Florida is much more talented than them, should have won that game by a lot more. I think Florida made the right decision to fire him. He was 12-16 in the SEC in his 3 years there. He was 22-23 overall. So I think firing him right here is a good decision. You have the bye week before your biggest rival next week. Give that interim head coach some time to get new plays in, get comfortable with the team. So I think it was the right decision for Florida.
Yeah, it's definitely a questionable move right after they beat Mississippi State. But now they're going into the bye week, and they're going to have to bring in somebody, or they're going to have to use their interim head coach. And they play Georgia next. So, I mean, as us being from Georgia, some of us being Georgia fans in here, I know, Michael, you are. Are you scared now that he's out of there?
I'm a little nervous. I would have rather them had fired him after that game, just because you see it a lot, like not just in college football, in the NFL too. Like when a coach gets fired, usually a team has like some juice, a good spark for their next game. And Florida's a talented team. I've told people this kind of all week and last week too, is that Florida's their record, they're 3-4 right now. They're posing as a bad team, but Florida really talent-wise probably a top 10 caliber team when you look at their roster.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely it worries me as well, because I mean, we saw a great performance out of Georgia last week against Ole Miss, but Florida with a new coach, they're going to have something to prove. And you said they have talent-wise probably a top 10 roster in college football. And so like you're looking at this team, obviously Lagway, you could partially put the blame on him. He hasn't been doing too hot. He's been kind of on, kind of off at some points.
Inconsistent.
But you could definitely blame Billy Napier for, I mean, you said 22-23 in the past 4 seasons. Yeah. Like, that's not something that you want to have, that kind of atmosphere.
That is the worst winning percentage by a Florida coach since 1950.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't mention the scariest thing about this team right now, and that's it. They just have nothing to lose right now. And when you're going up against a team that has nothing to lose and is just out to beat one of their bitter rivals and just salvage what they have as a season, I think that it's gonna be a closer game than people expect against Georgia. But I think Georgia still winds up winning that game in 2 weeks, but it's going to be closer than a lot of people think.
Yeah, now moving into another Florida team that actually I thought was one of the best teams in the nation. but they got upset this last week. We're going to talk about Miami and Carson Beck, who we thought was probably the Heisman frontrunner until this past week where he had a classic Carson Beck game. Jackson.
I wouldn't really say a classic Carson Beck game. I would say more of just an inconsistent off game for Carson Beck. Because with Carson Beck, he, despite throwing over 270 passing yards against Louisville was able to manipulate the air attack and get off to a 14-0 jump start, and they were able to hold on to that lead despite Miami only losing by a 3-point deficit. But with Miami, and Brandon said, like, they were the top team. They should have been the top number 1 ranked team over Ohio State throughout the entire season so far. And this really truly does shake up the ACC rankings, because you see Florida State's fall off. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but then you see Miami have a 1 loss, really no foreseeable losses throughout the rest of the schedule. And you look at Georgia Tech, the only foreseeable loss I see over there is Georgia at the very end of the schedule. It was a very interesting game. Unfortunately, it went down like that for Miami. Personally, I'm not a Miami fan, so I really could care less. But, Carson Beck, what the heck? Louisville in 5. Georgia Tech going to win the ACC.
Yeah, I could definitely see Georgia Tech winning that ACC. But what we saw out of Miami and what we saw out of Carson Beck, what we've seen we've seen a pattern with upsets this season so far. It's the team that gets the upset, gets out to that strong start. And you said they started out 14-0. And, once you have that lead, they just didn't get rid of it. Carson Beck proceeded to throw 4 interceptions against Louisville. So as somebody who likes UGA, thank you, Miami, for taking them and allowing us to have Gunnar Stockton start. It's definitely working out in our favor.
So listen, I don't understand this whole entire thing on Carson Beck right now, because we were talking about how he was one of the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy a week ago before that loss to Louisville. And all of a sudden, after one bad game, we're just going to talk about how this man is just trash and doesn't.
He's not trash.
I'm not saying he's trash, but I'm saying that this is one of these games where we're seeing a little bit of him from Georgia in how he's playing right now at Miami. Especially this past week, throwing 4 interceptions. He had those games at Georgia where he would have 3 picks, 4 picks. That would happen every once in a while.
I think
just had one of those games in Miami.
Every top quarterback has that. We saw it out of John Mateer the last week when he came off the injury. But that's a different case, the whole injury thing. But still, Carson Beck is a really talented quarterback. I think he is a top 3, potentially top 4 quarterback in this QB draft class heading into the 2026 season. It's just an off game for him, especially against a team like Louisville, who's been able to manipulate the air attack, not just against Miami, but you've seen it throughout the beginning of the season with Louisville. It's just an off game, and every quarterback has an off game.
Georgia fans were just kind of waiting for this performance to happen. I think so. I think from Georgia fans, there's some disdain towards Carson Beck for what he did last year and why he wasn't able to really finish the job against. Well, he was injured in the SEC championship game, but just kind of like how he played last year, I feel like Georgia fans kind of put him in a negative light. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, hey, Miami, this is what you signed up for.
Left a bitter taste in their mouths.
Yeah, well, going into the current AP polls, we have Ohio State, Indiana at 2, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Miami moves down to 9, and then Vandy getting into the top 10. Now, we got some weird teams here. We're seeing Indiana at number 2. They looked really hot this season, so I'd see why, but this wasn't a team that was very hot last season. That's coming out of nowhere, kind of, and is now I could see them being the number 1 team in the country. I'd say they're better than Ohio State so far this season. And then we're also seeing Georgia Tech, who, Brandon, you're a big fan of, so tell me a little bit about that.
So what we're seeing out of Georgia Tech is we have been fortunate enough to not have played a currently ranked team on our schedule. We did get a big win against Clemson earlier this year, but as we can tell, that Clemson loss is looking worse and worse by the week.
Yep.
And we've kind of struggled. We struggled against Wake Forest, putting them away. There was that offsides call that should have been called, I'll admit. But then we have last week against Duke and struggled really hard against Duke. Because I said it going into this week, if Georgia Tech was going to lose a game, it was either going to be to Duke this week or it's going to be later on in the season to Pitt right before we play Georgia. And I think that's the only two games really standing in our way of that ACC championship game against whether it be Miami, whether it be Louisville that's now looking like they could sneak in there, or it be Virginia.
They've been one-score games for Georgia Tech, and the only reason, because we talked about it last week, Duke was favored in that game, and I feel like the only reason Duke was really favored in that game is because they put up 40 points consistently against every single opponent throughout the season, and Georgia Tech was able to kind of handle that in the later half of the game. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, Georgia Tech being ranked there in the top 10, in very fortunate foreseen with not playing any sort of ranked opponents, and the Clemson game, it just looks worse by worse.
And I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned they were all close games, because it shows that this Georgia Tech team knows how to get a win late in the game and provide. It's a gritty team that can go out and just pull out a win out of nowhere. Just kind of like when their back's against the wall, they're going to go out and they're going to perform when the lights are the brightest.
Yeah, do we think that Georgia Tech are frauds? This is probably not a question for you, but do we think they're frauds? Because Brandon was talking about not a single win against a current ranked team. I could see them definitely winning the ACC, but when it comes to them playing Georgia at the end of the season, like, we might see a top 5 matchup there. Michael, what do we think we're going to see in that game?
I don't know about frauds, but this is what I would say, and this is how I felt after the Clemson game. I think me and Brandon actually talked about it after that, was like, when you look at their schedule the rest of the way, I felt like Georgia Tech kind of had to win these games in a certain way. You kind of had to, like, I know Duke was favored in the game, but when you're talking about Wake Forest and some of these other teams they've played, I felt like Georgia Tech kind of needed to handle these teams a little bit, not play these one-possession tight games, because let's just say they're 11-0 walking into Atlanta against Georgia. Well, if Georgia blows them out, and then Miami turns around and blows them out in the ACC championship game, now you're 11-2, and the two best teams you've played have dominated you. So is that still going to be good enough on a resume to get in the college football playoff? And I really don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too sure either. I mean, we've seen Georgia Tech this season. They play down to who they're playing against. Like we saw it last week against Duke. They didn't look too hot until that fourth quarter, when all of a sudden they had was that fumble return was in the first quarter, correct?
Oh yeah, that was a fumble return in the first.
But I mean, and that kind of helped out a little bit, but we saw they weren't really too hot until that fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden they started popping off, went up 27-10, and then Duke got a garbage time touchdown. But we saw Georgia Tech, I mean, against a Duke team that Duke was actually favored in this one. But we saw Georgia Tech. They managed to get the win. And, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really all you got to do.
I do actually want to point out what Michael said. He said, I feel like they needed to win in a certain way in a certain games, because it's only one possession win scores most likely, or for most of the games. And you saw what Georgia Tech's performance against, Virginia Tech, for example. Virginia Tech was able to put up 20 points against Georgia Tech. And you also see Virginia Tech's game, it's going to be a point. Virginia Tech's game against South Carolina, which I know Brandon's not very high on South Carolina. Yeah. I'm not very high on South Carolina, but they only put up really 11 points with South Carolina's shaky defense. I think Georgia Tech, they're going to make the college football playoffs because they're most likely going to be the ACC championship. That's the mostly going to be the ACC champion. It's going to matter when it comes to the rankings, though, and how the format is going to play out for a Georgia Tech team like that. Maybe a first-round exit, but it depends on really who they play.
Now, here's my thing. I will say this is a better team than we had last year. And last year we were still able to beat Miami, and we were still able to take Georgia into 8 overtimes. So I have no doubt in my mind we're going to be in every single football game that we play. I don't think we're going to get blown out even against Georgia. I don't think we're going to get blown out against Miami. I don't think we get blown out by any team that goes up against us.
Yeah, so looking at – I want to kind of transfer into these top 2 teams that we have in the AP poll. Ohio State remaining at number 1. They have yet to prove us wrong. But Indiana in that number 2 spot, which in this Big Ten, I mean, I'm excited to see how this goes. But Indiana, do we think they should be that number 1 team, or do we think Ohio State still deserves that spot?
Ohio State still deserves that spot.
I think resume-wise, Indiana has a better resume than Ohio State, obviously, because, look, and here's the thing with Ohio State. They haven't really played anybody. They played Texas early in the year, but Texas has not looked great.
They have a win against Illinois.
They got
that's a good win,
yeah,
but that's still not a –
Indiana has
I was about to say it's not an
Oregon
Oregon win, but that's still a tough and gritty win against a tough and gritty team over there in Illinois.
Exactly. But, Ohio State is to that point that they haven't played, at the same level of competition, I would say, with Indiana, because they have the big win against Oregon. But they've done what they're supposed to do against those teams. So you really can't fault Ohio State for that. So I would still have Ohio State ranked number 1.
I would say, yeah, they made good points with that. Indiana has the win against Illinois, 63-10. Indiana has the win against Oregon. Ohio State has some credible wins just due to strength of schedule. I think Ohio State, as of right now, still deserves the top spot, but we'll see later on the season how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I do think that this Ohio State team is still probably the top team. I mean, defending national champions, and they have yet to prove us wrong. But I could see Indiana taking over that number 1 spot by the end of this season. I can see Ohio State. I mean, they always have trouble with Michigan. So that last game of the season could be very, very huge to see who gets that number 1 seed in the college football playoffs. And now one more team before we go to an ad break. I want to talk about Vandy. Vandy being in the top 10 for the first time in who knows how long. And, I mean, Jackson, what do you think of this Vandy team?
With Vanderbilt, I mean, they have a lot of credible wins. I mean, they have, actually, they really only have one credible win, and that's LSU. But LSU has looked very inconsistent both offensively and defensively. They lost to Alabama. A lot of people were expecting a kind of Vanderbilt win against Alabama this season, but Alabama has, kind of pulled out of the whole narrative of dead dynasty, and, they've stayed consistent. They're one of the top teams in the SEC. But Vanderbilt, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. I mean, they play Mizzou this week, and then they play Texas, Auburn, Kentucky's a game, and then Tennessee at the very end of the schedule. And I'm saying that as a Kentucky fan. But I need to see a little bit more out of Vanderbilt, especially heading into the rest of their schedule with how strong it is.
Yeah, do we think that Vandy could afford to lose another game and still make the college football playoff?
It depends on which that game is. I think that they can afford to lose the Texas game. I think they can afford to lose the Auburn game or the Kentucky game. But you're going to have to beat Missouri and you're going to have to beat Tennessee if you want to get to the SEC championship game. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. The SEC championship is going to feature 2 teams that have 2 losses. I don't know which 2 teams those are going to be right now. It looks like it's going to be Alabama and Georgia. I'd put almost Alabama securely in the SEC championship right now because the one loss they do have, that's an out-of-conference game. But Vanderbilt is going to have to win against Missouri, and they're going to have to win that last game against Tennessee because Tennessee can sneak up, and they can still make that SEC championship game.
I think that for sure they're going to have to win out if they want a shot at that SEC championship game. I think they will be in it if they do win out. But if they lose one of these games, I mean, you're really determining SEC championship berth and playoff berth. If you lose one of these games, you might not make the playoffs. But if you win out, you're in the SEC championship. This is definitely the hardest part of Vandy's schedule that we've seen so far. They have some good wins, and we've seen Diego Pavia have probably one of the best seasons we've seen out of a Vandy quarterback in a while. And this Vandy defense also looking very, very strong this season. But do we think that Pavia is going to lead them to the playoffs or to an SEC championship? I mean, these next 5 weeks are going to be very telling of that.
So there's a very possible scenario that they could win out and they could still not go to the SEC championship game if Georgia winds up not losing or Alabama doesn't wind up losing. And then you're sitting there and you're saying Vanderbilt, well, their losses to Alabama.
Get a home playoff game.
Exactly. You get a home playoff game and you don't have to go and play the SEC championship game.
I'd say, but if you have credible wins against LSU, Mizzou, I mean, you have to put them in the conversation for an SEC championship and potentially a playoff push. If that happens, not saying that's going to happen, and that's a big if with Vanderbilt.
If you're Vandy and you're wanting to play for a national championship, that would be the best case scenario. Is Georgia wins out, Alabama wins out,
and you win
out, and then you get that playoff berth and don't have to worry about playing Georgia or Alabama in that SEC championship game. But we are now going to go to an ad break, show some love to the other shows, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all things Georgia, and get your wallets ready because we're going to walk the line.
Are you tired about hearing about pro sports? Well, that's a good thing, because we only talk college. This is Jackson from the Playbook, and you're listening to Wolf Sports Network.
It's time for Season 2 of The Playbook, and we're talking all things college football, putting together a better sophomore season than Tim Tebow in 2007.
To the listeners and everybody at Wolf Nation, I promise you one thing. You will never see an on-air personality work as hard as I will for Season 2 of The Playbook, and we will make this show better than any college football radio show will ever be for Season 2 of The Playbook.
Listen as we fulfill this promise, live, every Friday at noon.
This season, everything changes. I'm the only one who came back, and honestly, I might regret it.
Josh Allen might just be the best athlete the NFL has ever seen.
Spencer Strider is an elite closer posing as an ace.
D Rose is the most overrated player of all time.
One vet, all new voices, hot takes, wild debates, and zero chill. Season 6 of Sports Out of Pocket debuts this fall, only on Wolf Sports Network.
Ian's freestyle went big. But we're going to go bigger.
Dang, it's my first season. I feel like a star. I be dropping hot takes. I speak real bizarre. How many views we gonna get? I'd say about 1 mil. Out of Pocket Season 6. We got zero chill. Tune in to Season 6 of Sports Out of Pocket. Wednesdays at 6 on Wolf Sports Network.
Welcome to the Boring Sports Show, where we only bring the most boring sports takes. Who are you?
I am Hot Takes Man, and I defend the world from boring sports shows like yours. Another day's work for Hot Takes Man. Citizen, if you want to save yourself from boring sports content, then tune in to Sports Out of Pocket, Wednesdays from 6 to 7 on Wolf Sports Network.
From Athens to Atlanta, Statesboro to Macon. If college football is being played in the Peach State, we're all over it. This is the Peach Slate.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, and we are talking about all things Georgia, and we're going to start it off with our West Georgia Wolves. Now, we had a tough game. Yeah, we do have to talk about our West Georgia Wolves. Tough game last week against Tarleton State, arguably the top team in the country in FCS. West Georgia going into this game with a 2-game losing streak. Again, against probably one of the best teams in all of FCS. Davin Widener and our offense just could not do anything. And the score speaks for itself. So, Joey, what did you see in this game?
Not much of anything for the West Georgia Wolves. Unfortunately, watching that game with my grandfather, it was not great. I don't think I've seen my grandfather get that frustrated over a football game in my entire life, and that's saying something because we've watched a lot of Georgia-Alabama games. He said there were so many bad calls we made, and we just stopped throwing the ball and decided to run it, and I heard there was some beef about that. I'm not going to get into it. But I think it was also the mentality we had going into it. Because even our head coach, Coach Taylor did not have a great mentality going into this game. I think that didn't help in why we underperformed what we could have.
Yeah, we didn't look too confident going into this one. You could definitely say Coach Taylor might have been at fault for this, but at the end of the day, this was an injury-plagued West Georgia team. Davin Widener has not looked too hot these past couple weeks. Also got injured just a few weeks ago. And West Georgia had 5 turnovers in this game, which you can't win a game with 5 turnovers.
No.
So we're going to have a lot of work to do as we are taking on Central Arkansas tomorrow at 2 p.m. University Stadium. So y'all show out. It's our homecoming game. Brandon, what do you guys say?
So, the talk of this game was going to be if Davin Widener comes back and he plays, then we'll have a chance in this game. And Davin came in, and we only were able to throw the ball 28 times, and we only had 118 passing yards in this game.
Yeah.
Our offense just couldn't stay on the field, and that's what happened. We turned the ball over. We only ran 61 offensive plays in this whole entire game. And it just seemed like there wasn't a fire at all in this West Georgia offense.
You're completely right. I think same goes for the defense. The defense hasn't looked the same since the first 5 weeks of the season, and then going on a 3-game losing streak, losing to Austin Peay, Abilene Christian, and Central Arkansas back to back to back. If we regain the confidence on that defensive side of the ball, offensive side of the ball, I'm gonna give Davin a little leniency because he had a John Mateer type thing where you're coming off an injury and not having the greatest performance, but he's a dual threat quarterback. He's very known well for the run game. If we can utilize that and emphasize on that against a Central Arkansas team that hasn't really succeeded this season against a run defense, then I think we can manipulate the run game, manipulate the trenches on the other side of the ball, and win this game and bring it home for homecoming.
Yeah, going into this, I was not too confident that our pass offense was going to be able to win us this game. I knew that we were going to have to try and rely on that run. But Tarleton State has one of the best run defenses in all of FCS. And, holding West Georgia to 10 points it speaks for itself.
I will say if there was a bright spot from this game, it's the fact that we were able to get 6 sacks. So our pass rush was there, but we just wasn't able to bring running backs down.
Yeah, how meaningful is 6 sacks when you give up 45 points in a game?
Exactly.
A lot of work to do for the game going into the game tomorrow, but I'm excited for it. I think we could pull it out. Going into our next game, we're going to travel a little bit east. We're going to go to Kennesaw State taking on FIU. Brandon, what do we see in this one?
So we seen a whole lot of offense really early in this game. We seen Kennesaw State coming into the game on a 4-game win streak, and they actually look like could be a contender in Conference USA.
Yeah.
Them and Jacksonville State, the only two teams that are 3-0 within conference play. But I think that there was two really big plays. There was a 52-yard pass play that was 5 minutes into the game that really set the tone of what the Owls were going to do in this game. And then they had a 76-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter. And I think they wound up winning that game 45-26, setting that tone early and saying, we're going to throw the ball. We don't care what you're going to try and do to stop it.
Yeah.
But we are going to just go out. We're going to play Kennesaw State football, and came out with a really impressive win.
Yeah, they stuck with what they knew best. And you mentioned that they went into this game on a 4-game win streak, moves it to 5, and they're now leading Conference USA. And the only other team that's contesting them right now is Jacksonville State, which we'll see that in a few weeks.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see that. I hope Kennesaw State continues to do what they do best, passing that football. And I'm just really excited for this game against Jacksonville State in a few weeks. Going into our next one, we had our first Georgia rivalry of the season. Georgia Southern taking on Georgia State. Georgia Southern pulls away with it. But this was a close game up until that fourth quarter. Georgia State, who were the underdogs going into this one, were actually up 24-21 going into that fourth quarter. But then J.C. French, the fourth, for Georgia Southern, had 2 touchdown passes in that fourth quarter to run away with it. And there could be a lot of things you blame this on. Georgia State had a lot of penalties. They got penalized 15 times for 120 yards.
Yeah.
And Georgia State, to be fair, looked like that better team outside of the penalties. Looked like that better team up until that fourth quarter.
It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And Georgia Southern was able to manipulate the defense on the Georgia State side because, you look at it, they had 21 unanswered points in that fourth quarter alone with J.C. French throwing for 4 total touchdowns. 3 in the air, 1 on the run or on the ground. And you see with Georgia State, Cam Brown, by the way, former West Georgia quarterback, looking phenomenal at Georgia State.
Right.
He's a dual threat quarterback himself. I mean, he had a total of 3 total touchdowns, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. So, it was an all about QB battle, but Georgia State's defense kind of crumbled when it really mattered most, and that's why Georgia Southern was able to, manipulate and get the win.
Yeah, and now moving into our next game, we have Georgia Tech taking on Duke. And we just saw Georgia Tech win their 7th game, their first 7 games for the first time since 1966, and they now sit atop of that ACC. But the key to this game was Duke in the red zone. We saw in the red zone, they had that fumble return for a touchdown in the first quarter, which changed all the momentum. They had a botched field goal attempt. They had penalties in the red zone. All of this was just correlated to Georgia Tech managing to run away with it. The offense heated up in the fourth quarter like we talked about earlier. And Haynes King with 325 total yards and a touchdown on the ground. I mean, what we're seeing out of Georgia Tech, I'm impressed with what I've seen against Duke.
Again, tough, gritty win.
Mm-hmm.
We went out there and we just pulled it out onto the next opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Going into our last game, the biggest game of the weekend, the University of Georgia taking on Ole Miss and pulling out the win, 43-35. Defense looked optional in this game.
Yep.
I was expecting a little bit more of a defensive battle, but we saw what scores on the first 5 or 6 possessions of this game, maybe
You've
6
seen
or 7.
Ole Miss score a touchdown on their first 5 possessions, and then it didn't do anything after that.
And then in that fourth quarter, Georgia's defense shut down Ole Miss in that fourth quarter. Ole Miss was up 35-26 going into that fourth quarter. But Lawson Lucky for the Georgia Bulldogs had 3 touchdowns in this game, 5 catches for 43 yards and 3 touchdowns. And we saw a Heisman-type performance out of Gunnar Stockton.
Right.
26 for 31 with 4 touchdowns, adding 59 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He looks like Carson Beck did at Miami before this week. But we saw a possible Heisman candidate right there in Gunnar Stockton. I mean, what I'm seeing out of this Georgia team, I'm excited for the rest of the season.
So, listen, I'm a professional just Georgia hater. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing I can say about this Georgia team, although it's not the most talented that Kirby's gotten, it may be one of the least talented, but I think that this is definitely a fun team to watch.
I bet you that Georgia goes all the way this year. But speaking of bets, it's time to walk the line.
There is no way Carson Beck is throwing for 240 this game.
Are you kidding me? This is a cakewalk for him. I'm hitting the over.
Walk the line.
You heard it. Get your wallets ready. We are not responsible for anything that goes wrong. don't bet more than you can lose. And there is a hotline if it becomes an addiction. But our first line that we want to talk about, I want to talk about this Texas-Mississippi State game. Arch Manning's player line is at 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's hit this mark 3 out of 7 times so far this season against very easy opponents. And Mississippi State has a lot better passing defense than rushing defense. Their rushing defense has not been great this season. So Texas, I feel like, is going to take advantage of that poor rushing defense that's allowing 164 yards per game on the season. But their passing defense has only allowed 187 yards through the air this season. So Texas, I feel like they're going to be up quickly in this game, and they're not going to have to rely on that pass. So I think that Arch Manning might have 2 or 3 total touchdowns, but in the air, I don't think he's going to have 2.
No, I don't think he's going to have 2 passing touchdowns. He may have a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. But I think this Mississippi State defense, they've proven time and time again that although they're not winning games, their defense is keeping them in games. And I think that Arch Manning just hasn't been good enough against a good defense for me to think that he can go in there and get at least 2 passing touchdowns against Mississippi State.
We were looking at the SEC alone, especially when it comes to Mississippi State. In preseason, Mississippi State's defense and offense was ranked in the bottom 2 in all of SEC, but they've kind of, taken away from that narrative and proven time and time again, like Mississippi State, as Brandon said, they're not winning games, but their defense is keeping them in it. And I like what I've actually seen out of Blake Shapen when it comes to the Mississippi State under home at quarterback position. But when it comes to the Arch Manning, he's looked a little too inconsistent, especially against, I would say, these mid-tier kind of opponents when it comes going against Texas. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that we don't think he's going to take that, we don't think he's going to throw for 2 passing touchdowns in this one. They're going to rely on that run. Mississippi State's run defense is a lot worse than their pass defense. Moving into another SEC team, we have Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss. His line is 299.5 total yards. Jackson.
Trinidad Chambliss, this is going to be my line for the game. You've seen it against Georgia. You saw it against LSU. Georgia, he had 305 total yards. LSU, he had 385 total yards. And we've discussed on the playbook multiple times this season that Oklahoma has a top-tier defense. They're the number 1 ranked defense. I'm very, very excited to see what Trinidad Chambliss does against this Oklahoma defense. And I'm going to take the over this. He's proven time and time again. I think I'm not going to say it's a prove-it game for Trinidad Chambliss when it comes to the air raid and on-the-ground attack, but I'm excited to see what he does when it comes to over 300 yards total. And I'm going to take the over on this with Trinidad Chambliss because I like the upside of it, and I don't really see it going really any other way.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how he put up over 300 against both Georgia and LSU. But this is an Oklahoma defense, one of the top defenses in the nation. I think that Trinidad Chambliss might struggle a little bit with this Oklahoma defense. I really like this line that it's at because we've seen him hit it multiple times against good defenses. But then there's also times where he has went on the under because he just hasn't had to throw the ball too much or run the ball as much. So I do think he will get this under.
Here's my thing with the total yards. I think that Oklahoma has one of the best defensive lines in the entire country, and Trinidad Chambliss is probably going to wind up getting sacked a good bit. And if you don't know, those count as negative rushing yards for you. I think that those sacks are going to play a big part in this over-under right here.
Yep.
I see him going under. So I see him, if he gets to 250, I'll be impressed with this Oklahoma defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a pretty good line, too. I mean, 250, I feel like even that's going to be a challenge for Trinidad Chambliss.
Let's get Joey in here making the lines for Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Vegas, if you need somebody to make those lines, call my boy Joey.
No.
For a great low rate you can get online, call Joey and save some time.
Okay.
Going into our next game, we have Iowa State taking on BYU. Brandon, tell me about this game.
So for the second straight week, we have a ranked team that's ranked inside the top 15 that's not favored in their game against an unranked team, and that's Iowa State taking on BYU. And this BYU team has shown that they can be a tough team just like Georgia Tech has, but they took a different route in it, and a losing starting quarterback, Jake Ratzliff, in the offseason, going over there to North Texas. But they didn't miss a beat. Like, they've started 7-0 this year. BYU has proven they can get it done against good teams like they did last week against Utah. And I think Iowa State the past 2 weeks against Cincinnati and I think it was Houston. No, it was Colorado for the past 2 weeks. They haven't been able to stop anything. I think this BYU team puts up a whole lot of points in this game, and I think they outright win this game.
See, I think that Iowa State gets this done. I think they cover the spread, and they also win this game. BYU hasn't really beaten anybody too hot this season. They also don't have a current win against a current top 25 team.
Whoa, Utah. They beat Utah last week, and they were ranked when they played them. But
When
that
they-
depends on if you
It
want
was the Holy
that depends
War.
on if you want to. Yeah,
It was the
tough,
Holy War.
gritty win and a good rivalry game.
It was a tough win, but
Like-
I think this Iowa State team is just better than this BYU team, and I feel like there's a reason why they're favored. I think Iowa State, I mean, they have some solid wins. They beat in Cincinnati. They beat Colorado, or they lost to Colorado. Nope, they lost to Cincinnati and Colorado. Okay, hold on. I might have to change up my
Hold on.
That's what I'm
Hold on.
saying. They're coming off
Hold
of
on.
2 losses.
I'm
They haven't
gonna-
been able to stop the
So they're gonna have
offense
something
over
to
there.
prove. No, they're gonna have something
Hold on.
to prove. Iowa State's gonna get this.
I'm going to do my Aiden impression. The Big 12, it's not that fun. You know, I don't think it's going to be that fun when it comes to BYU and Iowa State. But anyways, BYU and Iowa State, I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. I think it's going to be very, very close. They've looked pretty much close to on the same level when it comes to offensive and defensive consistencies. And with Bear over there at BYU and Iowa State having Rocco Beck's looked calm, composed, quiet. But I think it's going to be very, very close. And you have the line at 3.5. I think, I can see a field goal difference. I think they're gonna not cover the spread.
Yeah. So Aiden, I'm sorry if you have your phone on in that courtroom. I'm so sorry that you had to witness Jackson with that performance right there. And then going into our military matchup of the week,
Military
Joey,
madness.
We have FAU taking on Navy. Navy favored in this one. Joey, what are we gonna see?
Man, I'm so happy Navy's back. As the only one of the only undefeated teams still left in college football, I see that streak continuing. And because this is not a good Florida Atlantic team, like the fact that they're favored only by, well, when I wrote it, it was 15.5. It has now gone up to 17.5.
Oh wow!
So it's going up as the day goes on. So I could see Navy just walking away with this one, and maybe even going for passing touchdowns more than they usually do. Because this is not a team that has a pass defense they're going up against.
Yeah, this Florida Atlantic team has not looked too hot this season, and this is a very, very hot Navy team that is currently undefeated, as you mentioned, one of the only undefeated teams left in FBS, and I could definitely see Navy winning this by at least 3 touchdowns. But going into an ad break, we're going to show some love to the other shows. When we come back, we're going to give our picks for this weekend, including West Georgia's game, and then, of course, we have Who's That Campus Legend, so don't go anywhere.
Keep it right here with the Playbook on Wolf Sports Network. But for now, let's take a break.
Listen up, because I got to tell you, Sports Pack is back and better than ever right here on Wolf Sports Network. Sports Pack is UWG's one-stop shop for all things sports. From hot takes to heated debates and even your best bets for the week, Sports Pack has you covered. So don't miss out on the fun. Catch us right here on Wolf Sports Network every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. See you there.
From the first whistle to the final buzzer, Wolf Sports Network brings you the action you crave. Sports Pack is your all-access pass to the Wolves athletics. From football, basketball, baseball, soccer, and volleyball, and more. If the pack plays, we cover it. Passion, pride, pack. Don't miss Sports Pack.
Every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 7 on Wolf Sports Network.
Sports Pack.
Sports Pack.
Sports Pack is back.
West Georgia's one-stop shop for all things sports. Whether it's UWG, NFL, NBA, or MLB, we've got you covered on all fronts right here on Sports Pack.
Mondays and Thursdays at 6, only on Wolf Sports Network.
Welcome aboard to Sports Out of Pocket Airlines, your nonstop flight to the highs and lows of the sports world. This is your Captain Jackson Vole speaking, and this is Flight Path, where we chart every climb and dive, teams taking off to championship skies, and players hitting unexpected turbulence. Buckle up, sports fans, and fasten those seatbelts, because when the whistle blows, we're cleared for takeoff. Listen to Sports Out of Pocket every Wednesday at 6, only on Wolf Sports Network.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Playbook picks.
I will argue with a brick wall if you say that that is not the greatest stager of all time. We're going to kick this Playbook picks right off with South Florida taking on Memphis. We were really excited about this matchup before we saw Memphis get upset last week. This could still be a very, very good matchup. Two powerhouses in that AAC. And I feel like USF is that best team in the AAC. Even if Navy finishes undefeated, I still feel like USF is that best team in that conference. So give me USF in this one.
Oh, I think this is going to decide what Group of 5 team gets an automatic bid into the college football playoff. Mm-hmm. And I trust USF just a little bit more than I do Memphis so far. So give me the Bulls.
I fully expect Memphis to bounce back this week, play a good game. I think it's going to be very competitive, very close. But, man, I love South Florida. I love Alex Golish. I think he's going to have a big-time Power 4 job next year. Somewhere maybe Florida, maybe Penn State, maybe Florida State. I think he's going to be somewhere big like that next year. So give me USF. I think they're the best team in the UAC.
When it comes to USF and Memphis, whoever wins this game is the Group of 5 will probably make the college football playoffs, as Brandon said prior. USF has looked a little bit more consistent when it comes to credible schedule wins. When it comes to them versus Memphis, if you're doing pros and cons, but I'm going to take USF and Byron Brown getting the win over Memphis.
We got a sweep here, and moving into our next game, we have Baylor going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense, in my opinion, is going to shut down Baylor's high-powered offense. Cincinnati has not lost a game since week 1 of the season. I think Cincinnati gets this one done.
You talk about high-powered offenses. Cincinnati, this is the most complete Cincinnati team I've seen since the Desmond Ridder days back in 21. Brendan Sorsby has looked phenomenal, only has 1 interception on the season. I believe 18 touchdowns for him at Cincinnati as of right now. And Baylor's defense has looked very, very inconsistent throughout the entire season and helping them lead to that 4-3 record. Big main reason why they have a 4-3 record. So I'm taking Cincinnati by a wide margin. And very good clean slate versus Baylor.
I think Baylor is just like the most inconsistent team that I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. Every time I look at a Baylor score each week, I feel like they're either up by 4 or they're down by 4, and it's like 45-45 every week. They're playing like just shootouts every single week, and you never know what's going to happen. I trust Cincinnati's defense. I agree with JT. I trust that more in this game. I think they'll limit Baylor's offense to a good amount, and I think Cincinnati wins this game.
So we talked to a whole lot of teams in the Big 12 this season. We haven't really talked a whole lot about Cincinnati. But Cincinnati's sitting right here at 6-1 and could very well be in the talks for that Big 12 championship game. And I like Sawyer Robertson over there at Baylor, but I think that Cincinnati winds up pulling this one out.
Yeah, and going into our next game, we have an SEC matchup between Texas A&M and LSU. Jackson, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Texas A&M, clean sweep. LSU has looked way too inconsistent. You talk about inconsistent teams, Michael Miller. LSU has been one of them this season. Texas A&M, I love the connection between Marcel Reed and his 2 wideouts, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. And that Texas A&M run game has been super slept on all season when it comes to SEC talks or just FBS talks in general. Le'Veon Moss has looked phenomenal for Texas A&M so far in the run game this season, and I think that this Texas A&M team can take down LSU by a good, I'll say 10 points.
You know, when you look at this game on paper, I think Jackson's right. There's really no inconceivable way that you should be picking LSU to win this game when you've watched these two teams play all year. But I'm doing it. I got a gut feeling. I just don't think anybody's going undefeated in this conference. I think this is a bad spot for A&M. They've played 5 straight weeks without a bye week.
He's saying this as a Georgia fan.
This is their second. This is their second back-to-back road games in this conference. This conference is tough, and not having a bye week for the last 5 weeks. And LSU's at home at Death Valley. It's the toughest place to play in college football. Give me LSU in a close one.
So I think LSU has, without a doubt, been one of the biggest disappointments of the college football season. And I think that Texas A&M has been one of the most surprising teams in this whole entire season. LSU's coming off an emotional loss to Vanderbilt because I think now LSU can pretty much throw their season out the window if they expect to win a national championship and get to the college football playoff. And I think that right now they're just in a state of they just don't know what's going on. And I think that Texas A&M winds up winning this game.
I mean, you mentioned that the winner of this SEC might have 2 losses, and LSU only has 2 losses on the season, both against Ole Miss and Vandy, who are 2 top 10 teams in college football. I mean, this LSU team, I have so much hope that Garrett Nussmeier finally gets it together. And Texas A&M, we've seen it in seasons past, they're bound to lose a game. This is a wide-open SEC. There's not going to be a single team that comes out of this SEC undefeated. And at some point, Texas A&M is going to have to lose a game. They have matchups against Missouri, Texas, South Carolina, Samford. I don't think they're going to lose any of those, but I do think they lose this one. I think LSU gets this one done. Going into our next game, we have Ole Miss taking on Oklahoma. Brandon, I'm going to start with you on this one.
I think the big thing from this is, can John Mateer return to what we were seeing out of him before he wound up injuring that hand? But I think, honestly, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Like, I think that Oklahoma's defense is really good. They're going to get to Trinidad Chambliss a lot. But I think that Trinidad Chambliss makes a whole lot of good plays downfield. I think that Oklahoma winds up winning this one in a close game.
I've been back and forth all week on this one, man. I've been going. I can't make my mind up. I think Brandon's right though. I think this does come down to John Mateer because that Oklahoma, in my opinion, has definitely the best defense in the SEC, probably the best defense in the country as well. You can argue that Ohio State as well. But I think that Ole Miss is going to score. Good offenses are going to score on good defenses all the time. So I think Ole Miss is going to get their points. But I think it being at home in Norman, Oklahoma, I think is going to do enough defensively to stop Trinidad Chambliss, and I think John Mateer is going to play well enough so they win this game close.
Oklahoma has the best defense in the SEC and all of FBS, and it's going to be an all-out quarterback battle between John Mateer and Trinidad Chambliss. I think Trinidad Chambliss, as mentioned before in Walk the Line, I think he takes the over in the 300 yards, but that does not mean I think that Ole Miss is going to beat Oklahoma. I think John Mateer will have a bounce-back game, spread the ball around, utilize the run game, because we've seen flashes of him being a dual-threat quarterback as well. Not saying he's as, elusive as Trinidad Chambliss, but I'm going to take – it's really, really close. It's going to be a high-scoring game like the Ole Miss-Georgia game. I'm going to take Oklahoma by a touchdown.
I think that we're going to need to see John Mateer go back to his form before he got hurt. I think that he will have this happen. I think that Ole Miss, coming off a loss against UGA, definitely have something to play for, but I do think they lose back-to-back. I mentioned earlier when we saw Trinidad Chambliss's line that I don't think he's going to hit that. I think this is, again, one of the best defenses in all of college football in Oklahoma. And now Ole Miss also has a very good defense, so I feel like that John Mateer Trinidad Chambliss battle is going to be awesome. But I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to come down to who makes less mistakes, and I just feel like Oklahoma's going to get this one done. Going into our next matchup, we have Missouri taking on Vandy. Michael, I'm going to start with you on this one.
This one's tough. I was leaning Vanderbilt all week because it was at home. I feel good about what they're doing. I love Diego Pavia. Missouri's pass rush, I think, is the difference in this game. I think they're going to get after Diego Pavia a little bit. They got after Ty Simpson a good amount and got him off a rhythm for a good part of that game against Alabama. They played very well in that game. I think Bo Perbula plays a good game. I think Missouri goes up to Nashville and gets a win.
I think, can we stop for a second and just appreciate the fact that College Game Day is going to be in Vanderbilt?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
It's been forever since Vanderbilt has even had a good team, much less a top 10 team. Mm-hmm. And I think that they continue this momentum that they've built this season, and they get a win this weekend.
Hey, you said College Game Day is going to be in Vanderbilt. Wolf Sports Network is going to be in the City of Dreams, Brandon, at University Stadium. But kind of driving back to the Mizzou and Vandy situation, you love Diego Pavia. Eeny, meeny, miny, Bo Perbula. I say it every single week. I love Bo Perbula. Ahmad Hardy, Marquise Johnson, Kevin Coleman over there. And they've enhanced and emphasized and really improved their defense week to week to week. And, I mean, they kind of proved that against Alabama. Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia has, really improved in his sophomore season with Vanderbilt and utilizing the weapons over there. It's going to be very close, but I'm going to say, and I've never picked against Mizzou, and I'm not going to pick against Mizzou this week. I'm sticking with Mizzou by a field goal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another great quarterback battle. We just talked about how Ole Miss and Oklahoma are going to have two high-powered quarterbacks. We have Bo Perbula and we have Diego Pavia. These are two also very, very good quarterbacks. But I feel like the defense is going to be what wins this game. I think Mizzou gets this one done. I love both of these quarterbacks, but I just think that Mizzou's defense is going to be the game changer. They're going to get this one done. Going in to our last game, the biggest game of the weekend, West Georgia. So we got Central Arkansas coming to our house, to University Stadium, the City of Dreams, Carrollton, Georgia, to take on our West Georgia Wolves. Jackson, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Emphasize the run game from our running backs and our quarterback, Davin Widener. Central Arkansas is not that great with the run defense. They're ranked bottom 5 in the conference in a run defense. As long as we can rebuild the momentum that the defense had within the first 5 weeks, I think we got it at homecoming. And, we have a lot of alumni in the house. And, Tyrell Adams is going to be speaking to that team. So I'm taking UWG all the way, baby.
All right, we're going to have a packed house this weekend. It's going to be a great environment. We even have to park at a different spot than we usually do for the tailgate show because of how many people we got coming to this game. It's going to be a great environment. I think we're going to run the ball very well. Latrell Morrell is going to do a great job. Get back in that run game. I think Davin Widener is going to be more comfortable. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The Wolves get it done. I think 17-3. A very low-scoring game this weekend.
So West Georgia lost 3 games in a row after they started 5-0. But Central Arkansas, we forget, is coming off of 2 losses themselves. And we have the Wolves dropping 3 conference games in a row, and they need a win to stay alive in the UAC, get to that UAC championship game. And Wolves fans, I know it looks bleak, but Central Arkansas is being outscored by their opponents by 47 points this season. And you mean to tell me these Wolves can't outscore them by at least 1 point here at University Stadium? Michael, give me the Wolf head.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm picking the Wolves, baby. Woo!
He's wearing the wolf head. Michael. Okay. Michael, did you already give your pick? I just lost all memory.
Yeah, I did. I got West Georgia.
All right, so we're going into this game on a 3-game losing streak. I'm sorry, I can't take Brandon serious right now. We're going into this on a 3-game losing streak. I'm really excited to see how we bounce back. We really need to bounce back this week against not a very good defense in Central Arkansas. TJ Lester is going to get this run game going. We saw him actually have a lot better game last week than we saw out of Latrell Morrell. I think that Davin Widener gets his stuff together, and I think that this West Georgia defense starts to step it up this week. We're going to have a right game plan. We have a lot of people coming to this game, a lot of alumni, tailgate show, 11:30 tomorrow, 2-hour edition.
Tyrell Adams, guest
Tyrell
speaker.
Adams, guest speaker. We're going to have a lot, and West Georgia's going to get this one done. We cannot disappoint for the 4th week in a row. Now, we get ready for Who's That Campus Legend.
Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Reggie Bush, Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel. What do these guys have in common? All these players know what it's like to be a campus legend.
All right, looking at the current standings, we have Brandon in first at 27, Jackson just behind him at 26, Aiden at 15, which is not here, so Michael, any points that you get today will go to Aiden, and then I'm sitting in last at 8 points. Jackson, we're going to start with you first.
College, Virginia. You need something else?
Yeah.
Virginia D lineman.
Yeah, defensive line.
D-line.
D-line at Virginia. You need to keep going?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Drafted number 2 overall in 2008.
Oh, I just don't know Virginia defensive lineman.
Number 2 overall in 2008. You locking in?
No.
Nobody? Okay.
I'm going to lock in. I don't think this is right, but I'm locking in.
All right.
Wait, no, I think he was – no, I'm not locking in. Wait, yes, I am. I need points.
All right. Next one. All right. 2008 to 2018. That's when he played.
This sounds right.
I need teams.
The Rams.
Nope.
The Eagles. The Patriots.
Oh
Rams,
my gosh,
Eagles,
I know who
and
it is.
Patriots?
Oh, I think I know who it is now. I got it wrong.
The Rams, Eagles, and Patriots.
I think I know who it is.
I don't have a guess.
I have no clue.
All right, throw up on the
I
board.
put Mario Williams.
It is not Mario Williams.
Yeah.
It is Chris Long.
Oh.
Chris Long.
I did not know who it was.
Heisman candidate. I know.
All right, no points there. Michael, you are going to go next.
All right. So the school, Georgia.
All right.
Oh, that's so easy.
All right, next hint.
Is a running back.
Georgia running back.
Oh, that doesn't narrow it down.
That does
anymore.
not. Keep going.
I'm gonna lock in.
Do we need? Is it draft? Is it draft year or just draft? Like
It's
regular?
draft
overall
position
and draft
Overall
year.
and year.
Okay, so I know it was 2009 was when he was drafted. Let me look at his overall.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I guess the wrong.
Probably
one.
24th overall, if I'm remembering correctly. Is it 22nd or 24th?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That hurts.
You know, there's a lot of Georgia running backs that come to my mind when it comes to 2009.
He was the 12th overall pick in 2009.
Oh.
12th overall pick in 2009. Just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
I'll be safe for the
Brandon
team.
locks in for 3. I'm locked in
Yeah.
for 4.
He played from 09 to when?
He played from 2009 2014. It's not a long career.
I might need the teams. Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, that last hint. What teams did he play for?
Played for the Broncos, the Dolphins.
I know who it is now.
I know who it is.
Yep. I guessed too early, but I need points, dude.
I don't know who was drafted that high, though.
Jackson is writing down a guess.
Okay.
Jackson's locking in for 1.
I got it.
Flip the boards.
Yeah, Brandon
Sean
Jackson.
Marino.
You know, that would have been my guess, but I didn't realize he was drafted there
So Brandon
early.
getting 3 there, Jackson getting 1, and up next, Brandon Dyer.
All right. You're going to have to stick with me on this one for a little bit. All right. We got a Nebraska quarterback.
Goodness.
I'm taking it.
He's taking
Nope.
it. I
All right.
want to guess, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
That's going to be probably your best hints that I'm going to give you. I'm gonna be honest
Here
with
we
you.
go. I'm also locking in. I'm locking in.
Like we'll say by disclaimer, this man's definitely a campus legend.
Okay.
Like,
I'm locking in.
For like bad reasons.
Like he's undrafted in the 1996 NFL draft.
Oh yeah, no.
Never
Nope, I got it.
Never mind.
No, I wrote down the wrong one.
Oof.
All right, Michael's the only one that hasn't locked in, so keep giving hints.
Keep going.
All right. Played in the Canadian Football League. Never did make it to the NFL.
I guess.
Keep going.
He played for the Montreal. I guess that's how you say Alouettes. I don't know what Canadian thing that is, but it's an Alouette.
I know who it is.
I'm gonna go ahead and lock in, but I don't think I'm right. I'm just
Hold on,
gonna try.
can I guess?
After we flip our boards, yes.
Yeah, flip your board first. I want to
Flip
see
the boards.
who you guessed.
I don't even know if this dude played quarterback or not. I just know he went to Nebraska.
No.
Is it
Tommy
Armstrong?
Armstrong?
Was it-
I went Dylan
Dylan
Rail.
Rail? No,
Was
it
it the other Tommy? Tommy
It
Frazier?
is Tommy Frazier.
Oh.
Is that 3-time
I
national
guess way
championship
too early.
MVP Tommy Frazier?
Oh, I guess way too early. And
That's why I had to throw the disclaimer. He may not have been undrafted, but he was definitely in campus legend.
No, he was good. Yeah.
All right, I am up last.
The final one.
This college is BYU.
Oh.
I'm gonna go right now.
I'm going right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
I'm going right now. I'm going right
I'm playing it safe.
right now. Number 5.
I
All
don't need
5.
the big points. I can
Whoa.
play it safe right here. Try and get me a good 2 points later, maybe.
Linebacker.
Nope.
I'm sorry,
wrong.
Aiden.
I'm wrong. Oh.
Linebacker from BYU.
No.
All right.
Need overall.
I just screwed
Yeah.
myself over twice. I bet forward and bet backwards.
He bet Florida backwards, apparently, you guys. I don't know what that was.
that means, but 70th overall in 2018.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh man, I don't know BYU guys like that.
No guess.
No,
He's still active in the league, so 2018 to now.
I may need teams.
Well, you're gonna get team. It's the 49ers.
I know who it is.
I'll let you guess after.
I think this is. This guy may have been to BYU. I have no idea. I do know he's been
Alright.
on the 49ers the whole entire time for
Alright.
his
Your
career.
boards. Puka Nakua. Fred.
That's why you don't go after one
Wagner.
guess.
That's Frank Wagner.
Fred Wagner.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Hold
That shouldn't
up.
count
No,
as
no,
points
no,
for that.
hold
No,
up.
no. That is
I
wrong.
know
Hold
who
up.
you meant.
Hold up.
But that's the wrong name.
Come on, no,
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 that's
no,
wrong
come
name.
on.
You have to
And
have the
know
full
what I
right
meant.
name. No, you have to have the full
Bro,
right name.
You know
that is
who I
cheating.
meant,
But
though.
you
Come
didn't get
on.
his name right.
Ah,
It's Fred
y'all.
Warner.
Just that one letter.
Not Fred Wagner. It's Fred
I thought it
Warner.
was
Y'all are being mean to your granddad over here.
BYU legend. BYU legend. Fred Wagner. But that's all the time we have for this show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I've been your host, JT, joined by Brandon Dyer, Jackson Bowles, Michael Miller. See you guys at the tailgate tomorrow at 11:30. See you guys next week.
You are now listening